If you guys can hear me, can you let me know, please, in the chat? Thanks a lot. All right, bad news says yes. All right, cool. All right, so what time is it? 1:37. Turn my camera on here for a quick minute. All right, so this is very impromptu, like everything's been lately. At 2 o'clock, Edward Kim is going to be here, and he has a compromise proposal regarding this $4.16 million assets that belong to the community. Alex had put out a proposal about it. I think Vegas has put out a proposal. A lot of people have put out proposals about it, including me. And Alex wants to. He's about to release his, but he wants to come on and chat about it first. Take your questions. Take my questions. And again, that happens at 2 o'clock. I always set up a little early just to make sure everything is running and working, gives people time to come on into the chat. Everyone who's in here right now, and it looks like there's like 13 people in here. If you can share this, share it on Twitter, share it everywhere you want to share it. Let's get some people in because this is going to be a very important one. We've got some major decisions we're going to have to be making here real soon as to what to do with that money, and everybody has different ideas of what we should do. So yeah, if you could do that for me, I'm going to go black. I'm going to go silent for a little while I get things set up in the background. I'm going to get Ed all set up and get him in here in a little while, and we'll probably get started closer to 2 o'clock p.m. Right now, it's 1:40 p.m. my time. So in about 20 minutes, we'll be ready to go. All right, guys, thank you for being here so early. If you got something to do, you want to go make some popcorn, you want to get some coffee, whatever you want to do, be back here in about 20 minutes and we'll be ready to go. All right, y'all. Thanks a lot. Hello, Edward Kim. Can you hear me?
Hey DJ, how's it going?
What's going on? Hey, I just want to make sure there's like a 15-20 second delay in the
Okay,
chat.
sure.
Can you guys let me know if you can hear Ed okay, please?
Where is this a Zoom chat or this is a different chat you're talking about?
No, it's a Zoom chat, but it's also on my channel live.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but there's a delay for whatever reason, and so it takes like 15 seconds before I can get an answer from anybody.
I see.
Let me turn you up in my headset. I want to make sure I can hear you pretty good. Everything sounds great. Okay, beautiful. Everybody can hear you. Welcome to the channel. Thank you very much for reaching out. Just a quick little background for everybody. Ed sent me a message, I don't know, 11:30 this morning, but I was out mowing my lawn, so I didn't get it right away. And then it was just a couple hours ago that I actually got it, and I had to move some things around because if Ed wants to come on and Ed wants to talk, we're going to get it done for sure. So how are you doing today? Tired?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. I think it's been a long, 6 months?
Yeah.
But
has it been 6 months, really?
Weeks,
wow.
Yeah. 5 months, maybe 5 months or so. Yeah. But
yeah. And the last couple of days have been a little hectic.
Yeah, to say the least. So
yeah, there's been a lot of messages going back and forth just between me and you. I can imagine you catching up with everybody else as well. So
yeah,
I thank you for your efforts. I really do appreciate it. So what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so I think should we just dive into
what the hell? Let's do it, right?
So I think so the reason why I messaged you, at 11 this morning, I was like talking to a bunch of people, and to various extents, and to some people I hadn't talked to them at all, and I just sort of showed them a draft, and they started asking me all these questions about why is this here, or what about this, and then so like we jump on a voice call and I'm explaining things, and they're like, oh, okay, that doesn't come across in the final version, like all the history behind all the minute things that we've been changing, and the big things that we've been changing. And so I thought, like, if this thing comes out again so we're talking about that $4 million proposal, what to do with the multi-sig. If this comes out and there's no like background story behind it, I'm not so sure the reasons behind some of the the parameters or some things that we've changed would come across. And I'm not going to make a 100-page document for someone to read with all the history. So I thought, what, let me just, I've been talking to you, DJ, and like, it's like, yeah, let's just jump on a call and talk about it.
I get that. Yeah, there are nuances sometimes that are lost through text. And if you've read any of Ed's Medium articles, you know that he is extremely articulate, and can really write one hell of an article and one hell of a proposal. But yeah, when it's text, it's open to interpretation, and sometimes people will interpret it the way they want to.
Right.
So yeah, it's good that we have you on face to face. You can chat about it and speak on all the nuances. I'm sure there's going to be some questions. Hopefully you have some time to answer them. But can I pull that up? Can I show it? Are you ready for that?
I don't think it's not. No, I would rather
okay.
not.
All right, that's fine.
Quite ready.
Okay.
There's, again, I got some feedback that I need to incorporate before putting it out. So,
all right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So why don't we start at the top then? I'll tell you what I understand real briefly, and then you can fill in the blanks, right? Okay. So Alex Forshaw put out a proposal not long ago regarding this $4.16 million multi-sig wallet that was brought to his attention after some conversations with Do Kwon. And the money, he was told, belongs to the Terra Classic community, to the network, and it is currently being controlled by 6 signers. And according to Alex's proposal, he was also told that under certain circumstances, those 6 signers would most likely release that to another series of signers, like I said, under certain circumstances. And so Alex put out this proposal, and there was a lot of things in the proposal that people didn't necessarily like. And so since then, on Agora Station, there have been a bunch of proposals that come out that said, well, what if we do it this way? What if we do it that way? What if we do it that way? And Ed is about to release his proposal, taking into account what everybody has said, not only in proposal, but in conversation and everything, and try to come up with the best compromise that he can for the community. Do I have that right so far?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I think like everything that was posted on Agora forum, I think I'm citing every single like discussion, right? And looking at all the comments and seeing like what is this person saying? Is it sort of a common thread that other people are saying as well? Should that be incorporated somehow? And I almost feel like, I don't know how to say this in a positive way, but like when I'm sharing this document to people, they're kind of disappointed, to be honest, because I feel like they're like, well, this needs to change, or I would rather this be some other way. And so I think it's not pleasing anybody, which is maybe okay, because I think no one hates it. Let me put it that way. No one hates it, which means I think everyone sort of needs to give a little bit of ground for something like this to move forward. And so hopefully, as this discussion continues and you see everything that went into it, you'll realize that there is no perfect solution here, and we can't sit at the extremes of things, otherwise nothing's going to get done. I mean, look at, I don't know, DJ, you're in the US like me, look at the political situation here. Everything is a fight, right? No one can take middle ground here. So that's what I'm hoping, like everyone can sort of like, they can look at this and say, all right, this is not perfect, but it does sort of take the voices that people have been offering into account. We can live with it, type of thing.
And unfortunately, we have some individuals, very much like the political atmosphere that you talk about, that aren't necessarily, are they actually on the opposite ends of the spectrum, or are they just determined to be obstructionists, are they, contrarians? There's kind of some of that going on, I think, as well. Maybe this person didn't support what I talked about, so I'm going to come out against anything that they ever say again. And it's childish, it's silly, and it doesn't move us forward as a community. It doesn't move this project forward. I'm invested, I'm staked, and I'm trying to make money on it. And I'm a little sick of all this bull crap. Today we're going to talk about some things where we're trying to reach a middle ground logically, and get away from those extremes, and see if we can find a path forward. So why don't you go ahead and give us the history that you're talking about that kind of sets up where you want to go.
Yeah. So maybe I can backtrack to, I guess, October 19th or so, when the funds were made known to Alex. And I think they were made known to other people too. It wasn't just Alex that knew about these funds. It was, as far as I knew, some other people were also shown that this multi-sig exists. So what Alex did, he showed me his entire conversation with Do Kwon. And I am in agreement with what Alex believes the reason behind this money was presented and sort of given to Luna Classic. It was a quote dev runway. Okay, so it seemed like through the conversation that Alex and Do-Kwon had, it was basically like our struggle of like how to hire developers, how to continue the momentum of this chain. And Do-Kwon said something like, well, what if you had a dev runway, right? And so, and I know in the conversations, Alex ignored that. He said, well, okay, whatever, let's just talk about some other stuff. And then I think it was like a day later or 2 days later, Do-Kwon brought it up again and said, well, sounds like you need a dev runway, right? And so when Alex came out with his proposal and said, like, this is meant for L1 blockchain development, I believe that's what the intention was. This was for whatever reason, it was, hey, like, it sounds like you need some money to get your devs paid. And so this is what we're offering. And this is, maybe you can start pursuing this. And so then Alex went down his rabbit hole and found the multi-sig owner, at least one of them. We don't know who the other 5 are. We just know one of them. Okay. And he dealt with them. And so that's where the proposal came from. So that's sort of the history of why I think Alex had the intention of what he believed the multi-sig was for.
If I could just break in and ask one question.
Yeah.
So this one signer that we know who it is this the name that was actually mentioned in Alex's proposal as being the intermediary? So that person is actually one of the 6 signers.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, but the other 5 are
unknown.
Is that normal? I mean, should we know who they are? Do we need to know who they are?
I don't know. I don't think, so I don't think we'll ever know. I mean, they're not going to reveal themselves. So, okay. Yeah. So I mean, it is what it is. This was a community asset before that was moved over to a multi-sig for various reasons. Maybe it was a yield or something like that. So, yeah.
All right. And I don't mean to throw you off of the the line that you're on, but obviously, as you say some of these things, questions come up, and questions that kind of have been asked. So is Do-Kwon in control of this multi-sig? Is it up to him whether these signers release it, don't release it, or was he just someone who said, hey, it's out there and these guys are in control of it, go deal with them?
I don't know. So I think that's going to be a mystery too, but I mean, obviously he pointed us in this direction. So, and I think he said something like, I believe the multi-sig owners will do whatever the governance community votes on. And so Do-Kwon is not a signer on this. So ultimately he has no control over what the signers do. Now the behind the scenes influence, we don't even know who these signers are. So I don't know, like maybe they talk a lot, right? So who knows what kind of influence Do-Kwon has on these signers, but the agreement that Alex came to with the signers is whatever governance decides. If governance decides to accept this money, they will hand over the keys. That is the deal, and it has to be a new set of signers. They are not going to swap this on the market to Lunk and then put it in the community pool. So that's out of the question. It's the only thing they are willing to do is give it over to a new set of signers, whoever we choose.
So if
And
we don't come up with a solution, some signers, whether they are appointed, elected, one way or the other, this money is staying right where it is, and we're not going to have access to it. Is that what I'm hearing?
correct.
Okay. Does it need to be, well, there's 6 currently. Does it need to be 6 for 6, like they're handing over individual, or no?
No, they said they are willing to either delete, add signers to the multi-sig, and then hand it over, or stay the same. Yeah.
All right. And you have, you said that you read the conversation between Alex and Do Kwon. So you can confirm that everything that he put in his proposal, as far as what were quotes from his conversation, are accurate and true.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. I'm trying to peek over to the chat here to see if there are actually any questions. I see that Happy Caddy is in the chat. Welcome, my friend. I'm glad that you're here. Bunch of other people. Let's see. Didn't see you, man. Trying to see if there are actually any questions. I don't see any questions yet. So why don't you go ahead and continue on with where we were?
Okay, so I'm not gonna go over Alex's original proposal, but let me just go ahead and say, like, I think there's been some confusion about, like, is this Alex's? Because Alex signed, you know, I put my name on it, and let me just say, like, I agree with what Alex put out. Like, he took a lot of effort, time and effort, and we went back and forth, and I was like, okay, this sounds good. Does that mean I would have put the same proposal out? I don't know. Probably not, right? We're different people. We would have done different things. Does it mean that his was perfect? And that's an absolute no. It wasn't. You know, we didn't think of everything, and that's why it's on discussion. So I think there's a lot of like when people see something come up on Agora, it's like, oh no, you know, this is what we're voting for. But it's the Agora is there to have a discussion. It's to see what we missed. You know, we live in our own minds, right? We see what happens, see if we miss something, and it's clear we missed a lot of things, right? So I think, okay, so this would sort of be the second iteration, but I think it was best if I sort of took the reins on this one, just because I think I could mediate with different people a little bit better than Alex would be able to.
I'm, you know, the fact of the matter is in very many circles, Alex comes off as a bit divisive, and it's been because of some of the things that he's put out, maybe some of the tweets, and maybe some of the proposals. It is what it is. I mean, we can't sugarcoat around it, right? Alex is, in my estimation, Alex is a brilliant guy, but you kind of either love him or hate him.
Right.
And so. Like, for instance, I've seen things where, everybody loves Ed, right? Everybody loves Ed. Ed, I never see anything bad in the chat about Edward Kim. Edward Kim is a genius. He's the king. He's this, he's that, okay? But I saw one person posting about how much they trusted Ed in Ed We Trust. And then in the same series, really slashing Alex to pieces. And I'm thinking to myself, but wait a minute. Ed agrees with Alex. So, I mean, where exactly the divide is, I'm not really sure, but I think that you're right, that it's much better to have someone like you, or even a Zaradar or whatever, who is able to mediate with everyone a lot better.
Well,
go ahead.
Let me just add, like, I think you're right. I think that maybe the easy part is that everyone's like, oh yeah, Ed, you're great, blah, 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 right? And so I'm like, oh yeah, let me work with you, right? I can work with you because you think I'm great. I mean, like if I had the same response that Alex was getting, like half the people are like, oh, you're great. Half the people are saying, whatever, you're the devil or something. I'd be like, what the heck? I think I would respond. It's only human nature to respond in that way. So I don't know. It's very hard, I think, in this situation to separate the idea from the person. And I mean, everyone has good ideas some of the time, right? We cannot just dismiss somebody because we don't like them, dismiss their ideas. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's just difficult now for Alex to get anything out there.
Yeah. So there is a question in the chat, and honestly, I think as we go on in the conversation, this question will probably be answered,
Okay.
but I'll just let it float out there. My question is, do you feel the community should decide on the council based on their contribution and proof of work rather than self-appointed? I guess as we get into start talking about exactly what your proposal is and what the differences or changes are, I assume that's going to be answered anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can just dive into that right now.
Sure, let's do
I think
it.
that is that was the main one of the main criticisms of Alex's proposal was that there were 9 signers that were self-appointed. And so let me just address this in pieces, because the first reason why we went from 6, it doesn't have to be 6, but the original was 6 signers to 9, was because of the fact that we had originally just said, oh, let's just go 6 for 6, right? And so as we were talking to some of the people that know the history behind Terra, in particular, this guy PFC, who's a validator, we said, oh, let's just go for 6 for 6. And PFC said, no, you can't do that. Like you need more than, you need 9 or 7 or 9, because this is a lot of money, right? We're putting a lot of trust in a few number of people, so you need to expand that, which is why we originally went to 9. And it was clear that there's always going to be disagreements as to how the money was spent. And so the threshold for an expenditure, it was going to be 5 of 9. So a majority vote needed to happen. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean like we wouldn't have, this is in the old situation, we wouldn't have tried to get everyone on board to understand and just push through something that, had a small majority, right? But it was a means of protection. And so, after that proposal went out, it was clear that, and I think you and I were both on the same page, self-appointing 9 people was not a good idea. Okay, so, especially if they were going to be representatives of the classic community, there should be some sort of election involved in who these signers would be. And so the first change I made was to move it down to 7, from 9 to 7. And I think that's because like once we make it more democratic, it's an election. It's not like we're telling you to trust these people. It's you, the community, are voting to trust these people. And so we don't need that extra level of protection of 9 signers if there's an election. That was sort of my first intuition as to why to decrease from 9 to 7. And I also think, this come later on, but there was this whole uproar about the salaries that these signers would have and their roles. And, if we have 9 people, it obviously costs more. So moving down to 7, so it's an economic move as well as a trust move, because the trust is now in the earlier process of an election. Okay, so that's sort of, I think 7 is sufficient, and everyone seems to be okay with that I talked to. No one seems to have a problem with 7.
Less people to have to be paid. Yeah. So,
yeah.
And honestly, I didn't necessarily have an issue, and I don't know that a lot of people had an issue with the people who were chosen to be appointed. Some of them, to be honest with you, I really didn't even know.
Yeah.
But the ones that I did know, I think I said in a previous video, they're probably who I would have selected anyway, right? It's just the matter that the community was left out and wasn't able to have a say.
Right.
And I just, I don't think that we're at a point right now where that's something the community is willing to allow, because we're all watching all the friction happening all over the place. And so an election, that's what that's what I talked about, and that's what you and I talked about, and like you said, absolutely on the same page. I don't see another way to really do it and make anybody happy.
Right. So that was iteration number one, right? It was just do pure election. Then I got a lot of feedback, and I think this is very valid feedback, that you would get a lot of popular people. I mean, that's what happens in democracy, right? It's
Sure.
popularity wins in an election.
Yep.
You wouldn't necessarily get the most experienced people, or the ones that aren't actively promoting themselves out on YouTube or whatever. And I think you even said so, right? You said something like, look, I know that I know some of them, but I don't know the other people, right? Because they don't present themselves out as, figures. But they have, I would say, behind the scenes, I've worked with them, and I see that I see their commitments to being sort of the guardians of the chain. And so in particular, I mean, everyone knows Lunk DAO, right? So I don't think I have to talk about Lunk DAO that much, but essentially on August 26th, no one, I mean, I guess people know now, but we were frantically trying to figure out how to update the LCD endpoints at TFL, because they hadn't been updated to that point. If they hadn't been, no one would have been able to stake on Terra Station right when the patch went in, and everybody, it would have just been just a mess, right? Somehow Lunk DAO woke up Paul came from TFL at 4 a.m. and got him to do the upgrade. So
No kidding.
and then we had the Dragonberry exploit that came in, and the first people on the front line were PFC and Lunk DAO to they dragged us into a Telegram group. PFC bricked his machine the first time around because the upgrade didn't work. I mean, so they are the ones doing the back end stuff, and with I don't know. I mean, like, I trust them, right? And I think they deserve. They have experience. I think both of them might be CEOs of some company. I don't know who they are. They're not doxing, but they're CEOs of some company. They have years of experience. I think we're just lucky to have them. And so that's why I think there should be some appointed positions to the multi-sig. And so what I hope is a good compromise here is election of 4, appointment of 3 being Lunk DAO, PFC, and then someone that PFC had recommended who is completely external to and can provide an objective opinion, who is Jack Zampolin, which he's also a CEO of some company too. So, I mean, I think these guys have experience. They've been with Terra for a very long time, Terra and Cosmos for a very long time. That's why I'm thinking they would probably not necessarily be the ones elected in, but I think it's important that they be there.
So, all right. So, yeah, iterations, right?
Right.
So, this recent iteration, just to recoup, I'll just repeat what you just said. You're suggesting that the community elect 4 signers, but there will be a total of 7, and 3 of them would be, designated. But you're suggesting that you already know the 3. There are 3 specific ones in your proposal, or are you saying once the 4 are elected, they would decide who the 3 would be?
I think I'm suggesting that these 3 be the first 3. and then
Okay.
we elect four more. But then governance at any points, at any time, can vote out anybody. So it's there. I'm just saying, I think it would be good to have a little bit of some deeper experience in the first three. If people are like, no, I don't want that. Maybe everything else in this proposal is okay. It's just that they don't want somebody, right? Then you can just immediately put another governance proposal out there and eliminate them off the multi-sig. So, I mean, I don't know.
Okay. All right. All right. So just to recap, because the question comes up a lot. Well, what do we need? What do we need to elect anybody for? Elected, appointed. What do we need anybody for? We already have governance. We already have proposals. Any questions or anything that comes up on Terra Station can just be voted on by the community, and we'll move forward that way, keeping it totally decentralized. But we're concentrating right now on this 4.16 million. So in order to get that, we can't, they're not going to release it unless we do this, unless we have other signers. So really, the options are, we do this, we have other signers, and we get that 4.16 million, and you know, there are proposals as to what to do with it once we get it, or we just continue on with the system the way we have it, governance proposals, things come up, you know, post a proposal, we'll vote on it and hope that it goes the right way, but say goodbye to that $4.16 million. Have I summed that up correctly?
Yeah, we need to come up with signers. That is the very first requirement.
Yeah. Okay. And I wonder, you know, I mean, how many are actually willing to just leave that 4.16 there just so that we can,
Yeah,
you know, not have, I mean, to me, that doesn't really make any sense. $4.16 million. There's a lot that we can do with that money to further the chain, to build the Terra Classic community and to build the project, so that we can all meet the goals that we're trying to meet. And I don't, you know, I never mince words about it. I'm an investor. I'm here to make money. All right. So so that's that aspect of it. We need the signers. We need, you know, hopefully we can have an election. We're proposing to elect four, but with a static three, because these are the three guys, according to Ed Kim, who everybody says they love, right? These are the three guys that will do it for us. We need these guys on there. So that's your proposal. What's the next section?
Next section is let's see. I think there was the issue that control would be centralized to these 7 people. And I think that went hand in hand with the self-appointment, which I think they're kind of separate issues, but they almost sort of tug at the same root issue, which is like this issue of trust. And so if you are electing the majority of the people to be on this multi-sig, then it is the trust of the community that's putting them into that position. I think the centralization aspect of it, there was sort of this majority vote could push it through. Here, we're actually suggesting that it has to be a super majority, meaning it has to be not just 4, it has to be at least 5 of 7 of the signers that agree to this. Mm-hmm. And I think, let's see, I think this also intertwined what the perceived role of the multi-signer would be in the whole classic community. And I think, you know, with the original one, we sort of had this idea that, oh, maybe it would be like people who made the roadmap for the community, sort of the, I don't know, the sage or something like that, right? They would be the ones. Okay. But I think that, again, that sort of confounds 2 issues, right? We're talking about, do we actually want a Senate, or a senator model where these people are sort of the ones that are guiding the development? Or are we simply just looking for people to take over this multi-sig so we can get $4.16 million? And I think I think those are separate issues. So instead of trying to put them together in a one proposal, let's just limit the scope of what these people are actually doing to signing off on transactions. Now, again, it's very much mixed, right? Because how can you know what to spend on? How can you know like how much something would cost and all this stuff if you're not deeply rooted in the classic community? So yes, there must be some aspect of knowledge of the needs and the direction that the chain is going. But again, sort of the role of the multi-signer here would just be to execute the will of the community, know the will of the community, first of all, execute it in accordance to what they believe is a good transaction, essentially.
So how do you, there's got to be there's got to be some sort of plan though, because as far as implementing the will of the community, again, if all we're going to do is the community is going to put up proposals and then this committee is only just going to answer to these proposals all the time, what do we need the committee for, right? Other than to get the 4.16. So there's got to be some portion that the committee is allowed to make decisions on their own. I mean, obviously we're appointing people or electing people that we trust. Some people, I mean, I don't know who would actually be elected. I don't know who would even want this position, who's going to put themselves out there to actually put themselves in that position to, be responsible for all this. But once we pick these people, hopefully they're people we trust, and they're not people who are just popular and had a lot of people vote for them. They're people that actually know what they're doing. So what section of it are we just trusting to this committee to do on their own?
Yeah, so I think did that go directly? Yeah, I mean, I think that goes to one of the next major issues here is this debate between why don't we just send it all to the community pool versus why even give them any control over any funds in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I feel like this is a very complex issue where I mean there was another proposal out there by Vegas who essentially said everything needs to go to the community pool and everything needs to go under governance. But I think that's an overly simplistic view of what will happen and what can happen. Like, for example, why was this in a multi-sig in the first place? It's because Terra, in its original form, knew that they need to open up. We cannot exist in a bubble, right? There are other cryptocurrencies out there that we need to interact with. And how do we interact with other cryptos? We have to put funds in a multi-sig, right? And either if it's a bridge to another asset or something like that, we need eventually, unless we live, only within Terra and maybe IBCs or something, if we want to interact, we need to trust people on a multi-sig. It's just going to have to happen. And we're just running into this issue now. And so this sort of the nature of this question, should we even be trusting anyone in this situation or in the future? And I think we have to. I think we cannot just do everything through governance. This is through governance. Okay, everything we're doing is we're voting on it, but we can't have everything through the community spend governance that it's just too restrictive.
Yeah.
So this, yeah, let me just say, this is governance. This is what we're talking about. People are going to vote on this plan. So so then it's like, well, what do we do with these assets? What do we trust the people to spend on? Do we put some in the community pool? And I think, you know, middle ground, what the middle ground here is just to take half under the control of multi-sig and half to the community pool. And I think what I would really like the whoever the new multi-sig owners to do is to take a hard look at what it actually means to put something, take it from, you know, off-chain Ethereum curve or whatever, take that, swap it into Lunk, and then put it into the community pool, because there are going to be, right, some lost opportunities in the off-chain yield that you would get if you kept it there, versus if you put it in the community pool, it just sits there, right? And you know, yes, Lunk will go up, may go up and down, right? We'll get that sort of return, but like you can have a guaranteed sort of yield outside the community pool. You're going to have a swap cost whenever you make that transaction. You know, I think it's a much more complicated problem than just, hey, let's just swap it and put it in community pool. So I think what I would like there to be is like the SIG owners do some sort of analysis of what it takes, what's involved with this swap, and then present that for another governance vote.
Good.
And I think there are some immediate things that I personally believe, and maybe this is not true, but I personally believe are like no-brainer decisions that we need to make in order to function as an independent blockchain. And those things are things like Terra Station. Terra Station right now, anytime we want to make a change, we have to make a pull request to TFL. Right? They're the ones that are in control. We need our own separate Terra Station. And I know that Terra Rebels, we have a station, and we don't have the funds, right? We cannot go to the mobile app store. We can't, you know, we're struggling with like the infrastructure of an LCD endpoint. You know, all these things, like I see the need, and I think they're no-brainer type of purchases. And I think we can just, you know, execute quickly on something like that if we had a multi-sig wallet that could see that need as well. I don't know. I mean, yeah. In my mind, I see it as a necessary. Well, first of all, we need signers, right? That's a no. It's not controversial. We need signers to get the money. We'll probably need signers in the future if we want to bridge out to other assets. If we're going to trust these people, why not trust them to do some quick execution of some spending and send, you know, half to the community pool. So it's not like they're in control of everything, but at least they can make some quick decisions.
So how much are you proposing is released to this team immediately to make these no-brainer decisions that should just be handled right off the rip?
So these are some of the decisions that and maybe this is like because I also started that Terra Grants Foundation program. And so I've been thinking about the different needs and the different spends that exist. And so, you know, it's sort of mixed up in my head as to like where does this funding come from? But essentially, like, you know, we're interacting with Agora classic Agora forums, right? We don't own that. TFL owns that, or someone else. I don't even know who owns that. We need our own forum. Like, if that goes down, what do we do, right? So we need a forum. I remember like when October 27th came around, and then all of a sudden new validators came in, and we had a Discord forum for validators. And then all of a sudden, like, we need to double check that these guys are actually validators. You know, how do we vet them? We can't put them in a secure channel with all the validators if we don't know who they are, right? And so we said, hey, Clan Mudhorn, hey, come in and moderate this channel. And he was like, wait, what? Right? So like things like that. It's like, we need to hire someone and not just ask Clan's good graces to come and moderate another Discord channel that he has no idea about, right? So like something like that, it should be an immediate like hire. Like, all right, we'll give you $1,000, come moderate this channel or something like that, right? I mean, it's clear that we need L1 development on the blockchain. Just the other day, we had a whole team meeting in Terra Rebels about how do we get to parity with Luna V2. And I have a bunch of things that Zardar gave me on my list, and I haven't done any of it because I'm stuck doing all this other stuff, which, so if we don't get full-time work here or other blockchain developers, I think we're going to slip, and that's not a good thing in our time scale. And a big one here is like legal. I don't even know what kind of legal issues that are going to come in here, but I think it's pretty much guaranteed that someone's going to get sued. Right? That's just what happens.
Which is why I don't know who would even want the position, but anyway. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I think a big part of this is like, if we're going to get some signers on here, we just need to make sure that they don't get destroyed in court or legal issues or liability issues, which means a large part, we can't just swap this into the community pool because we need to set aside some sort of retainer or something, or figure this out where whoever takes on this risk is not going to go bankrupt.
Do you know how long this multi-sig wallet has even been? I know we don't know who the signers are, but do we know how long it's even been in existence?
I think you can look it up. I think it's if you look up the address that Alex put up, you could probably see the first time that transaction went into it.
Because I guess the thought in my head, pertaining to everybody kind of worrying about, being sued or how risky this is this wallet has existed for however long it's existed with 6, signers. And, I mean, I haven't. Have you heard of any of them getting sued or there being any problems at all?
No.
So, I mean, I don't want to negate the risk. I understand the risk, but I mean, I also don't want to make it sound like, oh, you're definitely going to get sued about something, because it hasn't happened with all these other guys. So why would it happen with whoever we elect?
I mean, I guess maybe it's not necessarily the signers, but I mean, in the world of crypto, right? You need to protect yourself legally, I think. Yeah.
All right. So stay with that just for a second. I just want to address the chat for a minute.
Sure.
There's 155 people from what I see in the chat right now. Thank you all for being here. I don't want you to feel like I'm ignoring you, because I do see that it's very active and there are a lot of questions. But at the same time, Ed asked if he could come on and talk about this. So I really want to give him the opportunity without interrupting him every 2 seconds and maybe sending the conversation off in a different, a different path, a different way. So I'm hoping that Ed will hang, after we've talked about everything that he wants to talk about, I'm hoping he'll hang out for a little while and take some of your questions. But I would ask that maybe you hold them till the end, because as this thing is scrolling, when we get to the point where I'm going to say, okay, let's take some questions now, I'm going to miss everything that's being said right now. So I appreciate you being here, and I definitely want to get to your questions. I just, I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you. I just really want to chat with Ed so that we can get, because there's a lot of information to get out. I mean, I don't even know how far we are into this proposal as far as all the different things that there are to talk about right now. But all right, so as far as putting the money aside for potential legal things, now part of that was to hire an attorney or a lawyer to even make sure that there are no legal issues with this money to begin with, right? Make sure everything's kind of above board, right? That was part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. How would that play out? What would they be looking for?
I'm not, honestly, when it comes to the legal stuff, I'm not even sure. So I think we would find a good lawyer, right, that could sort of analyze whether or not, I guess you would sort of backtrack and see the transaction and see where it came from. I don't know if they can even track down the previous wallet owners, but just say like, oh, okay, this seems, the lawsuits that exist already out there are not targeting this fund or these assets. They look like, essentially they look like community assets, in that, if someone were to sue the community pool or something, it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. So like, hopefully there's some sort of initial analysis that these funds won't cause us issues. And then I think there's also sort of legal, I think the multi-sig has some legal fees, like imagine if we try something with the AFT, with a fungible token, and then the SEC says, hey, anyone in the US that was working on this fungible token, it's a stable coin, right? I'm going to sue you. And when the SEC sues you, it's essentially just to drain your bank account you quit. So I don't know. I think there's just a lot of issues here that this money could be used for, to make sure that we can move forward.
I know that was just an example. We don't need to go off on a tangent about it, but I don't know if you were aware or not that Alex actually spoke with someone that I put him in contact with regarding this AFT, this particular group called 3O DAO, who is working in Washington with a lot of these lawmakers and lobbyists and such. And he had a direct conversation with them pertaining to whether or not this AFT could, under their current regulations, be construed as a stable coin. And after he explained exactly what it was, they told him, no, we think you're safe.
Oh, so that's exactly sort of the thing that we're hoping a legal advisor could do for us for these assets too. Yeah.
Right. And again, I mean, that was just, I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but since you brought up that example, that's something I'm sure that's going to come up in the future. Now, all right. So here's a concern of the community regarding, and I don't want to stay too long on this, but just one question on it. Concern of the community regarding this money may be set aside for legal issues that the individual signers may come up with, right? What if one of the 7 just does something stupid, something illegal, something notorious, something, whatever you want to call it. And if we were given the opportunity, I'm not paying for your legal fees, you shouldn't have done that, right?
Yeah.
So how does your proposal address that? I mean, why would we be paying for something that we don't necessarily want to pay for?
No, I mean, the language put in here is very careful to say that it's not to protect anyone from an aspect of negligence that they did or something nefarious that they did. This is only for, or if, you know, if they abuse their position in anywhere, this is only for if, you know, none of that is true, and, you know, you just get sued for whatever, you know, some I don't know, what do they call those lawsuits? Frivolous lawsuit or something like that. And I don't know. So it's, the language is very careful here that it's not for those purposes, and will not be used for those purposes. Yeah.
Yeah, because legal bills can add up very, very fast. And, you know, I don't think anybody wants to see this $4 million windfall eroded away on frivolous lawsuits. I know that I said that I would go to the chat in a while, but I want to address Happy Caddy out of respect for the man, because I so appreciate everything that he's done for the community. So it says, seems a lot has been left out on this money. I've been listening very carefully. Note, I do not want a seat on the wallet ever. However, HCC did put in his own proposal, and I believe some pieces of that proposal found its way into what you're proposing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember, I can't remember exactly what Happy Caddy said in one of his videos, but I think and again, I mean, he's there, so maybe he can clarify, but I believe part of his proposal was an essential split of the community pool of the funds to send the community pool, and then some to be handled by the multi-sig. Was that accurate? I know there's a 15-second delay, but I mean, I guess specifically, I'm not sure what he's asking about that was left out.
A dev pool with a new proposal type. So,
well, okay, yeah. So let me talk about that. This is in previous iterations, and DJ, I've sent you those previous iterations. We talked very specifically about different pools of money and how, you know, how we envisioned those pools of money being spent and the amounts and all this stuff. And I think I got feedback, and I think I overstepped my bounds as a proposer here, because that is essentially a decision to be had by the multi-sig, right? I think it was sort of preemptive of me to dictate how this money is going to be spent, right? That's not my place. Okay. This is again, sort of just to narrow down the scope of what we're voting on. I didn't want to confound it with these different items that may have tripped some people up, or, you know, said that, well, that, you know, why are you spending $300,000 on that, right? So let's table that for the multi-sig people, which they're going to come out with a budget, right, and all that stuff. Let's table that for them to figure out, and let's focus on getting the signers and getting this wallet. So
yeah. Ed, I'm gonna give you this option because I know there's still a bit more to cover, and again, I don't want to get too sidetracked. Yep. But Happy does have some legitimate questions, and, you know, I could sit here as the intermediary and just sit here and read his questions and get your answers, or I don't know if he's willing, or I could invite him in for 5 or 10 minutes, yeah, and he can ask you some questions himself. I mean, what do you want to do? It's up to you.
That's fine. You can
Happy. If you want to come in and maybe ask a couple questions that Ed can field, and then we'll let him continue on with the path that we're on. Why don't you send me a quick message on Discord, and I will send you the link, and you could jump in. I'd be happy to have you come in and ask these questions yourselves, because honestly, I'm reading them, and, you know, like usual, they'd be on me anyway. So Yeah, if you want to do that, go ahead and send me just a message so that you can be at the top of my, and I'll send you that link. In the meantime, all right, Ed. So, all right, where do we go from here? What's next? Going down the list here.
I think one other thing that people will probably be up in arms with is this finder's gift. And let me just first say that this really hasn't been a contentious point when I've been going back and forth to a bunch of different groups. I think everyone sort of agrees that Alex did an amazing job in finding and categorizing and presenting the fact that we found $4.16 million. You know, it's, I don't know, just a funny thing. Like, a lot of people have been criticizing, like, oh my gosh, you're spending X amount of money for this and X amount of money for that. And it almost sounds like when, like, I don't know, you know, my wife goes to the store and she comes back and she's like, guess what? I just saved you like $20. Like, what do you mean you saved me 20? Like, I found a sale. It was $100 and I bought it for $80. And I'm like, you didn't save $20. You just spent $80, right? And in the same way, it's like, you're like, oh my gosh, you're spending $500,000 on legal fees or something. But it's like, no, we just earned $4.16 million. And I think that's sort of I would hope people see, like, this is amazing. Like, if you look at the community pool and how much, even that 10%, the seniorage that we're getting, it would take us 2 years to get to where we are. So essentially we just leapfrogged 2 years ahead in finances for this chain. And I think that by itself is just something to celebrate. We should stop fighting and be celebrating the fact that we just found this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's a windfall. You know, I've said it already. I'm really, really tired of the fighting. Maybe it's because I'm so much older than you guys. You know what I mean? I feel like it's a bunch of little squabbling going on by a bunch of kids, and I just don't have the patience for it. So Happy is coming in, and I'm happy that Happy is coming in. Wait for him to get his audio and video set up, and we'll have Happy ask a few questions. Says he's connecting to his audio now. So give this a second or two, and we should hear. I don't think we're going to see Happy, but we're going to hear him for sure. Looks like he's connected. Happy, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hey.
Hello, sir. There you are. We got you. Happy Caddy, this is the first time you've ever been on my channel. I didn't think I'd ever see the day.
Honestly, thank you. I appreciate you letting me on, Trev. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you perfectly. I'm sure that the chat can hear you as well. I'm honored to have you here, and I'm happy to have you come on in and ask a couple questions. So I'm going to leave you to it. Go right ahead.
Oh, thank you, Trev. I really appreciate it. And just before I do start asking stuff, I just want to say, you know, I thank you for everything you do, Trev. You are really kind of like this older figure that I see, this really neutral guy. You always go into everything with this kind of neutral aspect, and you never kind of take us, you know. I really, really appreciate you. And I appreciate everybody, because I've read through what you suggested. You know, I haven't put what I put down into a proposal, because I believe that, you know, people do take things, like Ed's saying, they put things out, they gauge it, what the community wants and stuff like that. And I think it's pretty obvious. The community in themselves just want to see a decentralized route for these funds, and to ensure, I guess, that they can see them at all times. And I guess my question would be mostly is, how could you put it into a developer's pool and it be in non-native assets? Because obviously you're not going to want that to go into Luna Classic or USTC, because the whole idea is to have some kind of stable pool as to which you can pay developers out. But I think it's key that we not only pay our current developers, but attract new developers, Ed. And this is something that over at Luna, and you will appreciate this better than anyone, is the fact of how nicely they approach each other inside their Agora text. They're always very respectful of each other's ideas. And I just feel like you've been saying about, you know, what's been missed out and all of these different things, and there could be legal fees with it. What is the real middle ground here? Where do we all meet on this? Because there's just such a big issue with this whole using your kind of position to influence the thousands on a very vague proposal, so to speak, that doesn't really cover anything other than just to shut down the current movements of what are happening. And like you're saying, people are just going to leave because it's not, you know, you've been doing this for 6 months. I've been here with you guys from the start and I'm suffering. So I can't imagine how much you guys are suffering. But yeah, sorry to keep asking so many questions and not letting you answer, but is a developer's pool an option with a new proposal type, Ed, as to which it can be interchangeable and you guys could get funds within a minimum of 2 days? We could have a smart contract system that pays out specifically like a payroll kind of thing.
So so definitely what could happen is you can have so you could definitely move funds to a different mechanism of distribution. If we're talking about like a new governance type of proposal that will require changes to the underlying code, right? Which at the moment I think would take, I mean, it could potentially roll into the next release, but that would be a couple months down the line. If you want to do like a smart contract instead on top that has some sort of rules, I don't know how you would include accountability in that smart contract without a human being able to evaluate if that's a proper, like, let's say, you know, we say this smart contract will give you your 12-month salary, right? Like, who's the owner of that contract? And they could always revoke it, or they can migrate it, or like, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of details there that we'll probably figure out. But ultimately I do think, like, you know, someone approving whether or not this person should get paid makes sense, right? Some government, I mean,
someone who's not you would almost think to themselves, you know, your grant scheme could actually, you know, kind of incorporate that position, couldn't they? Especially with you taking that step back as well. So everybody respects you, Ed. Everybody knows that you're neutral. You respect both sides of the river, so to speak, when it comes to things.
Yeah, and I mean, that's exactly what the grants program is supposed to do, right? So when the funds are released, they're not released to the person or the project. They're released to a multi-sig where, you know, someone has oversight over that, and then the receiver also is part of that, right? So it can only be released if appropriate milestones are met or appropriate you know, performance has been achieved. And so I think that mechanism makes a lot of sense. I don't know how to automate that in a smart contract, but in essence, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Awesome. And like with and I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not naming anybody. I'm just kind of saying we can't keep halting progress in this way of just putting a proposal up like that and, you know, everybody diving into it. We really do need to find this common ground, respect one another, and just get this moving to where we know it can be, because it's a race, isn't it? If you look at the alliance module that's being developed right now, on top of Feather, it's a game changer for them. And I guess that's why you're seeing certain trending bits about Luna right now. And, you know, we just need to figure out how to go ahead with these funds. But honestly, Ed, I believe that you guys know exactly what you're doing. You're taking in everybody's, you know, views and opinions and stuff. And you're going to come back with something and smash it, especially with your grant scheme, getting the funding today. I was so happy about that. I was like sat there waiting to make the video, like he did it. You know, this is good movement because people will just trust projects that come out of that. And it's really good. It's good from people on the outside, because we don't just need to impress the current community. We need to show people on the outside we're strong. We can do this. We have funding. We have a community pool, and we've got a grant scheme now that's going to, you know, pretty much what in an effect give us the big thumbs up from Dr. Kim saying, you know, it kind of gets in my country. I'm a structural engineer before I started doing this. So we have triple STS tickets. It's kind of like sticking a triple STS ticket on it and saying, you know, it's got the gold standard from us. Really good.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think you're right on. Yeah. So
happy, that was awesome. I'm very happy to have you come on and be able to ask some questions. I want to personally thank you for the kind words. It's, you know, as I said, an honor to have you on my channel. And actually, I hope that I've actually tried to do this before, but the timing was always bad. I hope that you'll feel welcome to come back any other time.
Oh, definitely. 100%. Anytime, you know, just reach out to me. Surprisingly enough, no one's ever actually like reached out to me and said, you know, do you want to come on my channel for a chat or an episode or anything, surprisingly. But one last thing before I go, Ed, I feel like this is that middle ground I was speaking about. I don't understand how someone could object to a specific developers pool with a specific proposal type, and then them funds specifically being sent to that, even if all of them went to that developers pool. I just don't understand how someone could stand there and go, no.
yeah.
We don't like this. It's, you know, it's not decentralized and it's control. It's in its own sense, it's as decentralized as you could probably get with that money. I mean, as you know, Strafe Cole's my technical guy, and he was someone that was put on the multi-signature thing, and I've given both sides of it, and there's pros and cons to everybody's thing, and you're never going to get it right ever, but you'll get it, Ed. I know you will.
No pressure. Thanks.
Put it on you, huh? Happy, I heard, and I didn't know this either. Strafe Cole, I heard, is also who helps you out with Lunk Penguins. Yeah.
I mean, he is an absolute wizard. I mean, Edward is obviously in connect with him. He's just a beautiful soul at essence, and I'm very lucky to have Strafe, because he does. I walk in his shadow in a sense and learn what I can, where I can, and just, you know, cling on to the everything he's got to give is so much to our community. You know, Lunk Penguins, he never charged us once for the time, the server space, and Lunk Blaze was built out specifically non-profit, and, you know, Strafe's the mastermind behind everything. I basically write stuff out, Trev. I make all these really complicated plans, and then I send them to him, and then we discuss all the ins and outs, and then he throws the project back out. He's just,
and he makes it happen.
He's an amazing guy. So, you know, he brought the whole community Lunk Penguins in essence. So, you know, I've not got an issue really with any of the signers on it. I just believe, obviously, it's the community we also need to always keep in the know. And, you know, everybody's flocked to this idea, haven't they, Ed, of a decentralized coin? The idea of, you know, the man not being able to have a say, but the people have a say. You know, kind of like this. I don't know how to kind of compare it to something, but it's really what people want to see. They really do.
Yeah. I agree. I know when this first came out, Happy, as in a lot of things, when the news first breaks, you're one of the first people I go to watch a video and find out how's Happy feeling about this, right? To see how he breaks it down. And I think when this first came out, you said you're just sitting on the fence. You're not going to make a statement one way or another on it. And then I think you thought about it a little bit, and maybe there were some things you kind of didn't like about it, and then you thought about it again, and you formulated your opinion. And I for one was honestly happy to see someone be able to say, I want to report on it, but I've got to sit back and digest this and really see how it's hitting me before I really give you my opinion on it. And I watched you do that over the course of a couple videos, and I really appreciated that about you.
Thanks, Trev. It's not easy, kind of, always sitting on the fence, and sometimes you've just got to give it to people in essence how it is. I didn't think it was going to blow up as big as it did, to be quite honest, at first. I thought it would just be overly accepted, especially with the people that were behind it. And the people that had formulated together are really trusted people in the community. And it's kind of touching back on the subject, you can't always judge someone's idea because of the person who's behind it. So it's so complex with this amount of money. We are a new community, aren't we? We're still forming, we're still kind of figuring each other out. And there's so much pressure that's been put by this money, but there's both sides to it. Like I said, I did both pros and cons in the end, because I like the idea of a streamlined system. What more does a community want? They want consistent good news all the time, seeing milestones being met, but you need money to do that. And I for one, I don't honestly know how Clan keeps a Discord together, just there's so much heat that these guys receive over the most simplest of things. Like Zardar has been sent messages, like he said, about a guy giving him, saying about, you need to help me restore USTC. And these guys are just trying to pick up the pieces left behind. And
yeah,
so I'm really looking forward to getting past this little stage though. And I think it's good, because I hope we get to a stage, Ed, where we're like the Commonwealth is over at Luna, because they're just so constructive over there. The way they keep going off of each other is kind of like watching a ping pong match where no one wins. It's just kind of going back and forwards in essence. So, but what do you think, Trev? What? Give us your opinion. This is your channel. What do you think is kind of the best plan for this money?
Yeah, I've kind of put my opinion out there over the series of a few videos myself. As far as the best plan for the money, I believe that we need some people out front giving us ideas of things that we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And so we need some people out front that we trust telling us, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. And I don't see how that really takes away from the decentralization of the project. I think it adds stability to it. It adds an actual path. Otherwise, we just keep going around in circles. So I am looking forward to this proposal coming out. I'm looking forward to us moving, as you said, past this little phase that we're in, and actually putting, I really hope that this actually goes down. I hope that we put some people in place. I hope that we get that money. And I hope that we move forward with it. I just want to see it used to further the chain, to bring us to the promised land. And I am not professional enough to know exactly what the things are to do with that money. So I'm happy to have some people in place who I trust, who can help us out with that. That's where I am on it, I guess, right down the middle, like I usually am, right?
Yeah, I believe the people who take on those signer roles are taking on probably the most crucial role in the whole ecosystem, because in a sense, these people, like Ed, knows so much about the chain, and they understand the direction, and there is a roadmap in place as well. That's the thing, even stating it's going to change, they have laid out a roadmap, and it's just money at the end of the day, and eventually it will all be gone, because they will spend it so quickly because of how much everything costs. Ed can probably let us know just how much help that money would be, and where the first kind of payments would go, and what it would secure. And I could guarantee it would secure the devs for starters, and it would it would probably speed them up by so much more. If you've ever listened to my podcasts, Trev, you'll know that Zaradar works on an old laptop. You know,
Yeah.
he even said to himself, if I had a better machine, I could even work faster in essence. So
Yeah. He's told me the same thing. Yeah. It's unbelievable. All right. Again, thank you so much for joining us, Happy, and I appreciate your words, but I also don't want to keep Ed forever, and I know there are some other things he probably wants to get to regarding his proposal. I'm not by any means saying goodbye to you. You're welcome to hang out if you want to, but I want to head back to Ed and see if we can pick up where we left off and hear the rest of what you have planned and what you're going to be presenting to us, if that's all right with everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much, Trev. I'm going to shoot off now. Thanks, guys.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
Ciao, ciao.
Well, that was cool. All right. Do you remember where we left off, Ed?
I'm not even sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I guess there are just a few more things,
Sure.
maybe sort of not completely related, but well, all right, why don't I jump into the costs of the signer here,
Okay.
which I think a lot of people had criticisms about the 5K that that was originally allocated to being a signer. And I know a lot of people were just like, oh yeah, of course. Like I'd be a
Right.
signer if I just have to sit there and sign off on things and
Yeah.
5K. But I guess, okay, so first of all, because there was so much backlash, we moved that down, and I was just ping-ponging back and forth here is what is, appropriate amount. I just landed on 3K, sort of a middle ground here. But I mean, I guess this sort of goes into something. So I had a discussion with Alex this morning, and we were talking about this, and I think I've worn him down, right? I was like going back and forth and like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And like, he's just like, oh God, Ed, just stop talking to me. Right. Like, but the last thing he said to me was, I think was very wise, right? Because I went to him and I was like, look, I think I've got, everybody sort of okay with this. And then I'm like, but I would never be a signer on this proposal. Like, I don't want that legal liability. I don't want, it's not worth it for me. And he said, well, why the heck are you going to put this proposal out if you don't even believe in it, right? If you don't want to be a signer, why would you put it out? And so that's sort of, when I said, I don't want you to show it, it's because I think everybody is okay with it in sort of the general sense. But at the moment, I just don't see anyone taking the signer role the way it is, or even wanting to take it. Maybe I'm wrong, but everybody I talk to says not really interested. So that sort of makes me think maybe the cost is too low. But I don't even know if money is the issue here. So
money's always the issue. Money's always the issue. You can get people to do some crazy things for the right amount of money. And $3,000 a month to not only take on all of the responsibility of this money and what to do with it, but also the potential hazards, legal hazards, not to mention the backlash. I don't care who you are or what your plan is. There's always that group of people who's going to give you shit, right? You can only, we're human beings. I mean, you can only kind of take it so much, so putting yourself out there like that, open to criticism, and $3,000 a month, I don't know that I would do it for $3,000 a month either. So I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
So there's a balance, right? If I say, 7,000 a month, if I say 5,000 a month, does the community balk at that? Do enough people think that that's too much money coming out of, because Alex's plan was it was $5,000, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And from what I saw in my chat and in my comment section, it was about 50-50. Some people thought that that was too low. Some people thought that it was too much. But this is my personal opinion. I feel like the people who thought it was too much don't really understand what's involved. I can't imagine doing what was presented as a signer for $5,000 a month, certainly not less than $5,000 a month. So yeah, I wonder if your proposal is 3 and Alex is talking about 5 and people are still, nobody's even seen your proposal really yet. Some people have seen it, but it's not really released. But if Alex is talking about 5 and you're still having a problem finding people that'll say, yeah, let's do that. We're back to the same choice, right? As a community, do we need to pay these guys what they deserve to be paid to take this position? Or do we just say goodbye to that money and just say, oh, that would have been nice and go on our merry way? I don't know. That's a really, really tough one. I want to ask this question, and again, we're going to go to the chat in a little while, but I want to ask this question of the chat, okay? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I just want to see the visual. Right now we have 150 people in the chat, okay? So a little sampling. Thumbs up if you believe that electing this panel and getting this $4.16 million plus maybe even a little more, we're not sure exactly how much is in there, getting this money and trusting them to do things with it, with our guidance, right? Just everything that's been stated. If you think that that's the right idea, give me a thumbs up. If you think that we should forget about the $4.16 million and just stay with the governance proposal, that governance system that we have, proposals and voting on it, give me a thumbs down. I just want to see that visual in the chat. Okay. I'm sorry, Ed, go ahead. Go on with the rest of that. So what do you think about what I said? I mean, what do we do? Maybe you have to raise that amount. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's sort of a big piece of the puzzle here that I'm trying to figure out, like, at what point, like, what needs to change here for someone to actually want to do this. So right, so I think a lot of the details are here. I think everyone's sort of fed up with me coming back to them and making these changes, and maybe that was the goal, right? Wear people down until they're big. Yeah.
I'll ask you straight out, are you putting yourself in there? Are you campaigning? Are you gonna be one of the people that we're gonna vote on? Yes or no?
I said the way it is now, I'm saying no. Which is why Alex said, well, then why even put it out there?
Mm-hmm.
So I think everybody's okay with this in like the spirit of this proposal, but when it comes down to, like, rubber hits the road on who's going to be the actual elected individuals, the risk reward of that position seems very unbalanced to me. So yeah, got to work on that.
I see Alex's point. I mean, it's weird to hear that from you and yet see a proposal so well thought out and so much time spent writing it up, and truly believing that this is the path that we should take, and then saying at the same time, I don't know about the risk reward. Yeah, I see Alex's point, and I'll tell you. Let me interrupt you just for a second, and I'll tell you, I don't think it works without you. Okay, and I know the pressure that is, but I don't think that it works without you. I think that if your name were up there, you'd be a definite. Somebody like Zaradar would be a definite, although he's already told me he really, he'll do it if people want him to do it, but he doesn't want to do it, right? I don't know where Alex is. What did Alex say? Is Alex going to be a person that puts his name out there to do it?
Well, I think I asked Alex, "Are you going to do it?" And then we had sort of discussion, and I said, "Well, I'm not going to do it." So he's like, "Well, you can't put this thing out if you're not even going to do it." So I actually
Yeah.
I don't know if Alex answered me or not, but he's got a good point. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just my opinion for whatever it's worth. I don't think it works without you. I don't think anything works. I think that it starts with you and then spreads out from there. Anyway, all right, but again, you're going to do what you're going to do. You're going to do what's best for you. I also understand you've been working your ass off for us for 5 or 6 months. Risk reward, life balance. It's taking on quite a bit more responsibility instead of saying, okay, we achieved what we wanted to achieve as TR. Now I can kind of kick back a little bit and enjoy some more life. I'll still be involved, but whatever. So these must be the decisions that are on your mind, because to go ahead and get involved in this is, really staying with it for a while. Now, your proposal, and I don't know if this has changed, but what were you thinking? Like, so let's say we find some people that want to do this and we elect them in and they're qualified and all the rest of that. How long are they in office? So however you want to put it.
yeah, I think there were, different issues along with the election, and there was it you that said like 6 months, and I can't remember.
So in my proposal, I originally said that I thought that we should have re-elections every year. However, there was a stipulation in there that said that an emergency election could be called by the rest of the team, the rest of the committee, in the event of a bad actor or someone that just couldn't fulfill their term or whatever. Anywhere within that year, you guys could call for an emergency election to replace somebody. But then someone in my comment section made a good point, and they said 1 year is an awful long time in crypto. You have no idea how much damage can be done in a year. And if you start down a path that's not the right path, it's a year before you realize it.
Yeah.
So they suggested the 6 months, and I thought about that, and I said, yeah. So in my video, I did say that 6 months might be the better idea.
Yeah. So originally, if you remember, in the first I had 6 months, but I think I was talking to a bunch of people. So I think Mojave Jeep, I was talking to that guy, and he was like, well, you got to make sure that there's some continuity, right? You can't just have six new people come in, potentially 6 new people or 7 people come in the next cycle. So why don't you like stagger it 6, 12? And I was like, oh man, like now we're just making like simple, let's keep it simple.
Yeah, that's kind of complicated.
So I was just like, you know what? Anyone at any time can be removed if governance votes. And I think it's just.
And your idea is that the community can put up a proposal to remove somebody at any time, right?
At any time. Yeah.
But from the community, not from the team or the committee. That can come from the community.
The community at any time can vote to remove anyone.
Do you not? And I know that it was, you really want to stick to certain criteria on that, but I mean, do you not see that possibly being abused just because somebody doesn't like somebody or a certain group doesn't like somebody?
I mean, I would really hope that again, I mean, that's the risk you take with democracy, but I really hope that people would realize, like, once someone has to make a case against someone, right, and present that case to the community saying, this is why I think this person should be removed, that people can take that and judge that accordingly. So
yeah. Someone in the chat said, stop pressuring Ed to push what he's not comfortable with need to respect his opinion. I respect his opinion. I also respect his ability, and I'm not going to sit and say, "Oh, that's fine, Ed. We don't need you," because I believe that we need him. But Ed's going to do what Ed wants to do. Believe me, he doesn't live or die according to what TJ Trev says. So I do appreciate that. Everybody's concerned about you, which is awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that too.
So what's left? What have we missed?
I think, I mean, the very last item here is essentially like, let's, and again, I don't think this should dictate so much as to what happens later down the line, right? What we spend on, that's going to change how much things cost, all that stuff. I had that sort of detailed budget laid out, and I think if people want to see that, I'll share that with them individually. But basically, I think that should not be included in this proposal. That's sort of sort of like a confounding issue that can be dealt with later after we figure this first part out. But if we do end up deciding to send millions of dollars or some large amount to the community pool, I think that grants program right now, all we have is like half time of one program manager, this guy Marco, who's been very good. We have half time of him and just some funds to build out a website, pay some people to do some independent evaluations of grants, maybe a little bit of marketing and some operations, but that's all we got, right? So we got a shoestring budget there. So I do say, if we end up sending money there, why don't we hire like some full-time, like a manager full-time, another assistant, and sort of make sure that it's not overwhelming that grants program with too much responsibility.
So other than the 6 signers and other than the staff on the grants program, you're proposing putting on a bit more of a team to handle certain aspects, paid positions, and such, which actually reminds me of something. So we're talking, just to backtrack a little bit, you're talking about $3,000 per month for these signers. What if somebody wants to put their name up there and they don't want any money, or they say, I'll do it for $2,000, I'll do it for $1,000 a month?
Yeah. Gosh, I was talking to you about that, right? I think so. Basically,
yeah, I had asked you about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And let me just, I can't remember. I'm trying to push up or pull up the reason why I put that in there. And it was just a suggestion someone made. Because someone that makes $500,000 a year would think that they should be paid more, while the guy that makes 50 would say that they're being, oh no, sorry, someone like an outsider looking would say that they're not being paid enough, right? Or someone, like you said, someone would say, oh, they're being paid way too much, right? So the option to opt out of the salary was added.
Okay.
I don't know, but then you're saying, like, if someone campaigns on the fact that they will take no salary, that could swing the popular vote in their favor.
I mean, that's something that came to my mind, is that it can actually be used as a bargaining chip. Now, we've talked today about the fact that we don't even know who wants to have this position. But I don't see that. I think that you're going to have candidates for it. And unfortunately, if they're not the people who we really need, it's going to be some people that we don't need who see an opportunity to grab a hold of $4.16 million. And once you're in there, right, and you've got control of this, and you got your buddies in there maybe too, maybe who cares about the salary, because maybe you can take that opportunity as the signer and the holder of the chalice of whatever, right? To maybe make some moves that are even more beneficial for you in the long run than what that salary ever would have been. Maybe this is just a very pessimistic way of looking at things, or a very jaded way of looking at things, but it's, the way I look at it.
Yeah.
So I think that someone who's really qualified and says, yeah, I'll take the $3,000, because to be honest with you, I'm worth that and probably more for what I'll bring to the chain. And they might be right, they might lose to someone who is less qualified, who says, oh no, I don't want any of that money. And we don't know exactly what their motives are. So yeah, when I saw that it was available to opt out of that, I personally don't think that that's a good idea. I think it should be a level playing field for everyone. But that's just my opinion. Someone else might have another opinion with a totally valid other side of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess we'll have to listen
We'll have
to what
to-
the community thinks.
Yeah, I don't know. I that's maybe I'll get other voices and see majority what people think, and just
So the results of my little experiment with the thumbs up here, even though that was a little while ago, I think you maybe you saw, if you're watching the chat, I saw one thumbs down, and everyone who took part in it, and it wasn't 150 people, but everyone who took part in it gave a thumbs up. So I think the overwhelming majority believes that this proposal is kind of on point. Before and again, I don't want to hold you too long, but I would at least like to respect the chat and take a couple questions.
Sure, yeah.
Before we do that, do you want to give a shot? Because I know that there was a bunch of different proposals that you read through. Even like you said, I thought it was a proposal that HCC put out, but I guess maybe it was something that was on one of his videos. But there were a bunch of different things that you got from here and there that you kind of implemented into your proposal. Do you want to give shout outs at all to anyone who kind of had a little influence as to how this went, or point people somewhere? Hey, go watch this, go read that.
Not in particular. I think
okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I think it's just, it was sort of like just a sort of a blanket survey. I don't want to say any one person's opinion is more important than another, but yeah, I mean,
I'm not necessarily talking about you sampling the opinions, but I mean, in your proposal, you actually have pointed to some specific, so I didn't know if you wanted to point people to those to read them, or, you don't have to. I was just wondering.
No, yeah. I mean, I think once it comes out, there are the links you can see. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. All right, let me see what I have in the chat real quick. Okay, J Rod, I got to scroll back down because I just lost you. J Rod says people need to think, ask themselves, would they work for free? And if they were offered a salary, what do they think they would be worth? Okay, so it's not a question, but a good point. Lee Davies says, what this blockchain needs is structure. What does Ed think about the holacracy proposal that's being worked on by community members? Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah, I know what he's talking about.
Okay.
So that particular issue, I did read it, and it did reference this multi-sig, but very in a cursory manner, meaning like, this is holacracy, then this is what we think should be done with the multi-sig. And I think that whole issue is completely, I'm not completely separate, but like very separate from the multi-sig itself. Because I think that idea of adding the structure and the different roles and the hierarchy I think that is that's a separate discussion, right? So I think here, this is the signers are their role is simply just to understand the financial needs and execute those needs.
Okay. All right, good. Marcin says they all need to be doxxed and accountable if any bad play takes place. So are there requirements for the people that we would be electing?
So for the election, the requirement is that they are doxxed, they provide a biography, and they don't have a criminal conviction, because we don't want someone with a criminal conviction handling the money. You know, I think I got some questions like, well, how do you prove, like, what do you have to do to prove that you don't have a criminal conviction? And basically, I think if you just dox yourself and put your name out there, like 500 people are going to figure out if you have a criminal conviction.
Yeah, yeah, people are going to check you out.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. And I'm sorry if I skip around and maybe skip your question, but there's no way that I can get to every single one of these. So we'll do the best we can. Martin says people don't have to work for free to make us rich. Okay, good point. Shrill Carter, in my opinion, all that needs to be done is keep an account of where and to whom the money is going. If everyone keeps bitching about it, all we are doing is standing still. I just want to move forward. I agree with that 100%. And I think that Ed does too. All right. The no doxing model. Where did I just go? Did I just screw myself? Oh, there it is. The no doxing model only makes sense if every staker can vote on the allocations of funds. If they want to circumvent governance, then there should be safeguards and full KYC included.
Yeah,
comment on that.
We are asking all elected to dox and KYC. The appointed, we don't have that requirement because they, I mean, first of all, they're not going to dox themselves. And I guess except for Jack, he's already doxed. But like PFC, Lung Dao, they are first, they own, I think they both own some sort of company. I think they're in high positions, and to me, they've proven themselves as trustworthy, which is why I feel comfortable offering them as appointed individuals. I think PFC said there's about 20 people that know who he is, and if he ever did anything illegal, they would throw him in jail. So I don't know, like, I guess for them, I think there is sort of this element that people will have to trust that they represent some element of the chain well.
Yeah, and there might be, you know, those aren't the only 3 people in the world with that criteria.
Right.
There might be other people that have that same criteria, business owners or whatever it is, that don't want to dox themselves. And basically what you're saying is that you can't put yourself up to be elected if you don't meet this, unless you want to dox yourself, but we're excusing that for these other 3 people. I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that kind of sounds weird, right?
Yeah.
I just don't know.
Listen, I'm not, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I guess I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, because that really is probably one of the first things that I heard that doesn't really sit right with me. And I'm not suggesting that the other 3 should be doxed. Okay. I'm on YouTube as DJ Trev, right? I mean, that's, that's it, right? So I understand wanting to keep some anonymity. I understand what comes along with doxing yourself, and you're really putting yourself, your family, your friends, everybody at risk in some points. So I'm not saying that the 3 that are appointed should dox themselves. I'm saying, why require that of those who are being elected? They might have the same criteria as those other three, and that doesn't really strike me as fair.
Yeah, I think you're right. I guess maybe that's something I do need to revisit here, because I appreciated their deep knowledge of the chain and their experience, but yeah, I mean, I guess you're right. There are other people that have that qualification that might be willing to dox themselves.
Yeah, do whatever you want to do. I mean,
No,
my
right.
vote would be to kind of give people that option. I know that there are people in the chat and people in the community who would say, no, if you're going to have control of this, we want to know exactly who you are, whatever. But I mean, what ultimately would you do with that knowledge? Look at, and I'm sorry to point to this, but look at the Shiba Inu team, right? Development team and everything that they're doing, and not a damn one of them are docs. They refuse to do it. So it's not like you can't successfully perform those duties if everyone doesn't know your social security number. You know what I mean? But again, that's just my opinion. All right, let me move on from that. Shrill Carter says, Ed, can you ask Trev not to video and drive? I've been putting out, I don't know if you've seen,
I've seen that.
but I'm working so much that I've been putting out a bunch of videos when I'm actually at work. And sometimes I got to drive here or there. So I'll press record and then I'll drive. And everybody's having a fit. Don't do that. You're crazy. All right. Anyway, I got you guys. I got you on that. All right. DJ Trev, can those 4 positions be experience specific? Like one blockchain engineer, one financial advisor, one management, and so on. Please ask Ed about that. Thanks. And honestly, I've thought of that myself, because if we hire 4 people who do the same thing, who's going to handle the other stuff? How do you do that really? I mean, without really complicating the election process.
I know. So I mean, yeah, we thought of that too. And I think it just complicates, like you said, it complicates the election. Like what groups of people should belong. And so,
because now you're having multiple elections. Now you're like, okay, we're going to elect somebody for this position. We're going to elect somebody for that position.
Right.
And that might be a fair way to do it if you really want to diversify the team.
Right.
But as we get into this, I think that we're finding there's more, every solution brings up 5 more questions.
Right.
So, it kind of is what it is. We'll work through it. That's a great question. Thank you for that one. All right, I'll take 1 or 2 more, and then I have maybe 1 or 2 questions of my own, and then we're going to have to wrap this up. If someone gets paid from community funds, then it should be for specific tasks, not for holding the key. Not a question. It's more of a point. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, these signers, their responsibility is going to be significant. It's not just, every once in a while, just jump on your computer and generate some signing key, right? You're going to have to figure out what needs to be done, like according to the will of the community, right? So you have to figure out the will of the community, which is that's a big ask too.
Yeah.
And then
sometimes the community doesn't know what their will is.
Right. Figure out who are the people that can get this done in the community, like how much it's a lot. I feel like it's a lot of work to ask for a multi-sig person to do, but yeah,
I hear you. All right, Johnny Cummins says, why don't we treat it like an election, have a president, and then they can appoint a cabinet and a VP? I mean, I hear the point, but I don't know that would really fly with a lot of people. If doxing a part of this team Alex chose is a problem, why not pick another people who are accountable Maybe professionals who are not related to Lunk would be better. I guess what he's saying is that if doxing is the main thing, then maybe, you know, if these 3 people that you guys chose don't want to be doxed, then maybe we choose 3 other people. So those are the 2 options, I guess, right? Either, you know, go with the doxed, or go with the doxed because we want these 3 people. These are the best 3 people for the job, and you guys know it. Or go undoxed, and it's up in the air. We get who we get.
Yeah. I mean, I think the problem right now is the way this is presented. Again, no one has said yes, they would take a signer role here. So, and I guess, so something has to change, definitely.
Yeah. All right. All right. You know, I think it's clear that we might still have a little way to go to really hone in on this and fine tune it. But I am amazed at what Ed has put together, because I have read through it, and a lot of people out there have read through it. It is the best compromise I have seen. It is an amalgamation of not only his thoughts and Alex's thoughts and some other people's thoughts, but even some other things that are on Agora and videos. And he really went out of his way to try to make every voice heard. So it deserves our respect. It deserves our serious consideration. And I'm going to leave that at that. But I do have 1 or 2 questions, if I could, real quick, kind of not pertaining to that. Okay. Where are we on IBC? Do you know?
So I think IBC is going to be rolled into V20, the next version of the code. Okay. There's been some work doing Tendermint IBC channels to the Cosmos hub, but that's not osmosis. That's not what everybody has been talking about. That's sort of maybe the first step, but
okay.
Really the code needs to change, and so we're talking 2 to 3 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
2 to 3 months, and that's right now. And assuming I would assume that is in a perfect scenario, and nothing else comes up in that time that kind of sets it off, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Which, you know, happens a lot. My other question is, you made reference today to a few different things, talking about you know, kind of a new Terra station, you know, endpoints and all these different things that we've talked about. I have seen conversations about how we are actively moving away from TFL, and there was something that where Do Kwon even came out and said, listen, you know, whatever it is that you guys want to do, if that's what you want to do, let me know. We'll shut it down. If you want us to continue, we will certainly continue. But I think that the general consensus is to move away from them, have a whole new Terra station, control the endpoints, all these things. I don't know if you remember in my very first interview with you guys, I asked the question, and this was Terra Rebels at that point, and things have changed, but I asked the question, are you guys looking to kind of just take over the chain and control everything? And I got an emphatic no, don't want that position at all. But yet here we are 5-6 months later, and it seems like that's exactly where we're moving. Am I right?
So you talking about independence, or you talking about Terra Rebels?
No, let's leave Terra Rebels aside. That's a whole nother can of worms, right? I'm just talking independence as far as Terra Classic, okay? Moving totally away from Do Kwon, from TFL, and you know, again, with our own Terra station, with our own Agora. You even talked about having a new Agora. So total independence. But when you have independence, it's not controlled by them anymore. It's kind of controlled by somebody else. Mm-hmm. Is that's what we're moving toward?
I mean, that's a very interesting question, because I think that is absolutely a path that we need to take. and we should take. So I think we should be, if TFL were to shut down for whatever reason tomorrow, we need to be sure that we can move forward, right? So that doesn't mean that we stop using their services, but at least we need to be ready at any point. Like for example, their endpoint, they said they would probably just leave it on for us as long as we need to until we can transition off, right? So I think we gradually transition off, but we can still use our endpoint. Like we're not just gonna, if it's there, we'll use it, right? So
Okay.
I think like we just need to be in a position that if this whole sort of side of the chain, if TFL sort of just disappeared,
Well,
we
they
should
talk about
be fine.
sunsetting or whatever at one point, right?
We need to
Or
be
however they put it.
yeah, sunset some like Agora, if it shuts down, I mean, like we need a place that we know that we can discuss governance proposals, right? So I think it's absolutely critical that we have that independence. That doesn't mean that we don't use it. We just need to be independent in case something were to happen.
Would part of this $4.16 million go to that goal?
I think it's necessary, but again, it's not up to me, but I do think that's very important.
Okay.
That being said, I think there's like a really interesting possibility of like trying to figure out, once we get to Luna v2 parity, so once the two chains are technologically equal in some ways, how can we bridge that gap so that developers can come, so that developers, that we have a sort of a mutually beneficial situation. And I think so in one way, I think we absolutely need independence, but in the second way, there's like this big, I don't know, pot of developers, right? I mean, there's just like, there are smart people there that we can tap into. How can we make it easier for them to come and work on Luna Classic? And so it's almost competing efforts, which I find really interesting to think about. But yeah, but there needs to be independence. That's absolutely critical. But then at the same time, can we somehow bridge that gap? So
I mean,
know.
okay. I don't know how you do that, but that's why you guys get paid the big bucks. Well, not yet, but hopefully.
Yeah. Big pennies.
All right, so when we're talking about parity, we're talking about cooperation. We're talking about the ability to interact with each other, which, I guess IBC plays a part of, and or whatever. But that's what we'd like to move to. Now, the concern has been brought up, and Richard, thank you very much for that $100 super chat. And I think I saw a $5 or some super chat from Crypto Dream earlier. I'm not ignoring you guys. It's just this conversation is gripping, but thank you so much for that. And Richard, I'll get to that question in a second. Stellar Prism, I also want to get to you for other reasons, but anyway, oh my God, where was I? I just threw myself off. I'm not even sure where I was. What were we talking about?
Just independent, like different things.
Oh, yeah, independence. Okay. So there have been concerns out there that maybe we're cozying up a little too much with Do Kwon. That maybe, there could be some influence there, and somehow we're kind of doing his will without him even knowing about it or whatever. I mean, is there any truth to any of that? I mean, what is the distance? What is the connection? What is that? What is that relationship right now?
Yeah. I'm not sure. So I think I've had one sort of maybe 2 or 3 line conversation with Do Kwon over Telegram. That's it. I think other people are much more freely communicating with him. So I would say that, so originally I was like, oh, like this money, no one just gives you money for free. Right? I was very suspicious about this money.
So we're a lot of
Um,
people. Yep.
Yeah. And so like I had all these hypothetical situations running in my mind. You saw, I don't know if you saw, but Luna 2 has this expedition program where they're going to spend some $200 million over the next 4 years to incentivize
I
builders
missed that. I'm
and
sorry.
users.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and that was like right around the time that this wallet became known. I was like, oh, this is like, they are, this is sort of their indirect way of playing into their expedition program or something. I was like, all these
Yeah.
thoughts,
What's the agenda? Yeah. Right.
the agenda. But then what was really interesting is that Do Kwon made a post on the expedition program and said this is a waste of money, right? He's like, you're spending X amount of money for total value lock, blah blah blah, and it's just not efficient, right?
Okay.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like
Hmm.
he I guess he's not really in that decision-making process with TFL anymore. So I don't even know what their relationship is, let alone our relationship with. So it's just like a big mystery to me, like what's actually going on. So
Yeah.
I'm
I can tell you it's a concern amongst a large enough section of the community that it was worth me mentioning. And there are people out there listening right now who might have the answers, and feel free to kind of speak on that, whether you do it on Twitter, whether you do it here, wherever you do it. It's something the community is concerned about, and I think it needs to be addressed. All right, so going to my mod, Richard Awad, who just sent me $100 super chat. The man is unbelievable. I really appreciate you. I have to get this question in. As you know, I'm at work, Trev. I've heard a lot of talk about hooking up with Do Kwon again. That's actually what I just brought up. I might have seen that out of the corner of my eye. My thought would, it might kill our chances with Coinbase and Robinhood listing. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we just spoke on. I mean, I don't know that Ed really has the answer to how cozy a relationship there is, if there is a cozy relationship at all. But there are people out there with that answer. So let's hope that they hear this and kind of speak on that for us. And Stella Prism says, don't worry, we are going to the moon, it seems, for sure. Nothing is stopping that despite passionate debate. And I wanted to read this particular gentleman's comment so that I don't get accused of ignoring him, because I guess he asked some questions in my last one that I just never saw. I wasn't ignoring him. And he put out a quite interesting review in video about me recently that I just happened to see that I found extremely entertaining. So feel free to go and check that out if you want. All right, Ed, is there anything else, anything that we missed, anything else you want to cover?
Maybe just lastly, I want to say that, like, I think in the process of trying to make everybody happy, I think I may have upset some people as well. And I don't know, I think in my effort to be completely sort of independent, as best as I can, I think some people feel maybe left out in this. Their voices, because they were close to me or something, they thought that maybe I should take, that sort of weigh that more than somebody else. And I don't know. I feel like in a lot of ways I've disappointed people with this proposal, and I feel like there really is no compromise that's the best compromise here. And so, yeah, that's all I want to say. Just like, if someone can take this away and and do it better, please do so. But this is where it is.
I've been very vocal about being quite a proponent of the Terror Rebels since the beginning. I really praised the efforts and the work that was being done on our behalf. I had really almost every video that came out with any of you guys was in a very positive light, because I believed what was going on was very, very positive. But as of late, I have released a couple of videos where I have maybe commented on some observances that maybe don't shine such a great light on some things that are going on. But that is the promise of my channel to the people that follow me, that I will always stay true to myself, always stay true to my feelings and how I feel about things. And regardless of whether or not I have a relationship with someone, or, you know, how much they like me or I like them, I have an obligation to the community, and I have an obligation to the truth. And when I put out some of those videos, I did get a little backlash from some members of Terror Rebels who were very disappointed that I put that video or those videos out. So I absolutely understand where you are. I know of what you speak. And I can only say that I feel that pain, but at the same time, we have a commitment to ourselves and to, you know, you got to do you, I got to do me. And just because you have a disagreement or you're on a different side of something than your friend doesn't mean you don't still care about your friend. It just means you have a different perspective, a different viewpoint. And if your friend is actually a friend, then they will respect that. Ed, do you. You put out the things that weigh on your heart and your conscience, the way that you see them. And the people that are close to you, if they're really close to you, they should appreciate you for that. So I wouldn't lose too much sleep over it, because if you lose friends over it, they weren't your friends to begin with. And that's this old guy giving some, you know, whatever, my been around the block a few times kind of perspective on it. So, all right. Thank you.
Yep, sure.
Go ahead.
No, I gotta go, I think.
Yeah. Thank you very much for being here. I'm going to let you go. You can sign right off.
Right.
I'll talk to you soon. The community appreciates you and everything you've put out. So I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
We'll talk to you again.
See you. Bye.
All right. Everybody in the chat, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for sticking with me. I don't even know how long this was. I feel like it was a couple hours. But I appreciate you all. I appreciate my mods. I appreciate all the questions and everyone that joined us. I do see that Crypto Dream it has been a member for 2 months. That's awesome. He also sent a super chat. Got a super chat from Vertex, from Richard, from Shill Carter. So I appreciate all those, and thank you very much. Hit the like button on your way out if you have not already done so. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, because I try to do stuff like this a lot. And I'm really just trying to bring as much information to the community as possible. So hit the subscribe button on your way out. I don't know. I'll see you all later. All right. I appreciate you. Ciao.